Hey there, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Nate Gustafson, and I'm so thrilled to be with you today, wherever you might be, whatever you might be doing. This is a great day because we're going to be focusing on advancing hope through this Hope Connection webinar. Today's special theme is Thriving Together, Healthy and Whole Mind, Body, and Spirit. So let's begin. As you can see in this picture, it takes many, many hands working together in the effort to advance hope with all of our heart, with a passion, with a commitment to help make tomorrow a better day for those that are lost, lonely, or brokenhearted, whether that's in the school that you teach at, whether that's as you shuttle kids to and fro their sports practices, whether that's helping out in the nursing home or visiting folks that are in the hospital, helping an elderly neighbor. Whatever that might be, encouraging a mom who's got a child with Down syndrome, whatever the case might be, whatever your hands, your heart, your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit, whatever you're doing out there to help tomorrow be a better day for folks, you are advancing hope. And in order to advance more hope, we have to put all of our hands together. We have to put our hearts together so that we can thrive together. And so that's the focus today, is thriving together with a healthy heart, soul, mind, and strength. I know that this day for you, this week for you, this month for you, this year for you has been filled with the busy bees, busyness, burdens, and burnout. They're like chains that shackle us and hold us down and keep us from really achieving and supporting the people that we truly want to help in this world. It seems like so many times I take a look at the world around me, I take a look at all the hurt, all the needs, all the suffering, and then I look at my calendar and I just don't know how in the world I can do another thing to help, but I sure want to. I wish I could do more. I think, well, maybe I could teach another class. Maybe I could go volunteer at the homeless shelter. Maybe I could mentor an at-risk youth kid. Maybe I could visit elders in the nursing home even more so for my job. But it just seems like I look at my calendar, I look at my life, and I'm filled with the busy bees of busyness, burdens, and often it seems like it really puts us on the path towards burnout, towards a period of time where we just don't have it in the tank anymore to give another ounce of compassion, to care another bit about someone else's soul. And I don't want us to get there, folks. I don't want you as an agent of hope, whether that's an agent of hope in your family because your kids are teenagers and their lives are chaotic and a mess and they need you to be fully present and ready for them to shepherd them through that time, whether you're a pastor, a clergy person, whether you're a counselor, a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer, a garbage collector, a volunteer at a local shelter, whatever the case might be. I want you to thrive, not be chained down by the busyness, burdens, and burnout that takes so much of us. So the question we're really asking ourselves today is, are you thriving or are you merely surviving? What is it today? Hopefully the answer is that we're thriving together. We might feel like we're on the roller coaster. We might feel like we're about ready to drop 3 stories straight down. And we might be double checking that lap belt to make sure it's secured tightly and fastened across our lap. But ultimately, in order to make it, in order to advance the hope into this world that we truly want to see happen, we have to thrive together. We have to be thriving together. There's no hope that comes out of this world, comes out of our lives when we're burned out, busy, and burdened. And so that's why today we're focusing on thriving together. But also the reality is that there's a 3D path of destruction just all over the place. It's not just in hurricane-ravaged Bahamas or in floodwaters of Houston or in the earthquakes in LA or forest fires of Colorado. The destruction is everywhere, and it's 3-dimensional. It's mind, body, and spirit. People's thought lives, their emotions that go with those thoughts, their physical well-being, as well as their spiritual well-being is truly just a disaster, to the point where so many people have given up on hope. So many people have thrown in the towel, said there's no way I can do this anymore. I'm just going to, go ask people if they want fries with their order, or I'm just, not going to care anymore. I'm not going to put my heart out there one more time just to have it, trampled on because of all the destruction, all the disaster going on in this world. And it's in churches, it's in counseling centers, it's in hospitals, hospice work, universities, in the business sector. Everywhere we turn is not just the lives of people that are impacted by this destruction, but it's sidelining agents of hope like you and me. It's sidelining good-hearted, true people who just want to make a difference in this world. And it's because we've completely allowed our three-dimensional life just to become destroyed. We've allowed it to just get twisted up into a mangled heap of mess, like you see on the screen there. So what are we going to do about it? Well, we're going to take a snapshot at what the reality that faces us. And the reality, if we were to do a three-dimensional health and wholeness snapshot, you'd see from a 2018 Gallup survey, 55% of the respondents say that they're super stressed out. 45% of the respondents say that they've worried significantly in the last day or two before the survey. And 22%, almost 25%, say that they've had experienced extreme anger in the last 24 hours before that poll was taken. That's the mindful dimension. That's the dimension of our head and our heart, so to speak. The thoughts, the emotions that are racing through our veins, that are racing through our mind. We are so stressed out. We are so worried. We are so angry. And it just points to why there's so much destruction around us, why there's such a path of devastation around us, because our mindful dimension is off course. Then there's the physical dimension. There's 100+ million people in this world, in the United States, who are suffering from some sort of chronic illness. Some of them are preventable, some of them not preventable. Some cancers are chronic and eventually terminal illnesses that cannot be prevented, yet there are heart disease and lung disease and other types of cancers and diabetes, certain asthma effects that can be mitigated if our physical dimension, if our physical well-being is in better condition. Let alone, let's look at the spiritual condition, not just a religion, but let's look at the human need to connect to something greater than ourselves, whether that's a philosophy, a theology, a spirituality, a church, a synagogue, a mosque. We see the need is so great for the spiritual dimension of a person to be cared for, to be recognized. We cannot ignore that that's part of our 3D health and wholeness snapshot, is to see that there's so many hungry and hurting people out there struggling to find meaning, struggling to find purpose in this world, and that's that spiritual dimension. So let's move forward and let's take a look at the goal here today. Is I want to see you, every agent of hope that is listening to my voice, that is watching this presentation today, whether in 2019, 2020, or beyond, I want to see every one of you thrive, because I know you can. I know you can thrive when you focus on the three key dimensions of health and wholeness. That's like a 3D pathway to health and wholeness. The three dimensions: thriving in your mind, thriving in your body, thriving in your spirit. I know it's like this rock climber on the screen. I know you can do it. I know that there are obstacles. I know that it's hard. I know that you're busy. I know that you're burdened. I know that you're on the verge of burnout, ready to throw in the towel and trying to help another soul. But we've got to stick with this together. That's the goal, folks, here is I know you can do this. I want to see every agent of hope that is watching this, that is seeing this, that is listening to my voice. I want to see you thrive in health and wholeness by focusing on these three dimensions of your life: your mind, your body, and your spirit. Let's begin. Thriving together. Let's take a look at what a dimension of healthy minds might look like. One author recently I read asked the question, how do you show up in the world? Have you ever asked yourself that question? How do you show up in the world? Do you show up as the angry person? Do you show up as the distracted person? Do you show up as the bothered person, the disengaged, the quiet, the cynical? You know, that's part of who we are in our mind. Our mind, emotional control center of our life, has the power to impact how we show up in this world. And if we want to truly live with a more healthy awareness and healthy mindset, mindfulness, then we have to grow in our self-awareness. We have to pay attention to those emotional messengers that are coming at us. Every day we have emotional messengers, whether it's anger, whether it's sadness, whether it's frustration, whether it's loneliness, whether it's longing, whether it's just this excruciating pain. Whatever that emotional messenger is, it's the cue to say, stop, tune in, pay attention. What's going on inside my mind, my heart, my soul? What's this all about? Recently, I've really enjoyed getting to dive into a practice and a way of looking at the human life, looking at the human condition, looking at our inner world through the tool of the Enneagram. That's this 9-pointed circle with a funny diagram in the middle. An Enneagram is basically a nine-sided figure, nine-shaped figure, and it's been used to describe a type of personality understanding. It's a whole person understanding of our mind, body, and spirit that some have traced back millennia, back to the early parts of the first century, and it's been rejuvenated the last 30 years as this has kind of hit the mainstream now, and it helps us see ourselves. It helps us understand those internal motivations that are the parts of the iceberg that are underneath the surface that we can't really see, and our reason for being is due to the experiences that we've had growing up, due to our wiring, due to our nurture, due to our place in this world. And so we all show up differently in this world. We may show up like a hard-charging, take no prisoners person. We may show up as the kind, supportive helper. We may show up as a real creative type who's always looking to not be boxed in and not be held down by any sort of shackles of that could hinder creativity. Or you might just find yourself, or you might find your loved one or your best friend to be the life of the party, that complete, just always bringing the fun, always bringing the party to everywhere they go. That's how we show up in the world, and the reason why we show up that way in the world is often seen through the lens of what has taken place underneath the surface that shaped our thought patterns, that shaped our emotions. And on this diagram, whatever your personality type might best be described by, whatever number that is, it'll point to a number that you're a lot like, that you're sharing traits from when you're in your healthiest spot. And it will also point towards a number or go towards a personality trait that you pick up on when you're not so healthy. So for me, I tend to be like the 9 on the top of the circle there. And when I'm healthy, my arrow that's pointing towards me says that I'm drawing from the best characteristics of a 3, which is like a performer, which is someone who has a lot of confidence and self-assurance. But when I'm not so healthy, when I'm tired, when I'm busied, when I'm burdened, when I'm broken down, I'm pointing towards the 6. My energies goes towards the 6, which is kind of a worst-case scenario type of a person who has just a committee of inner critics going on in their brain at all times. And so I've really been learning a lot about myself, learning a lot about how to see and view other people, learning about the interior motives and the methodology behind the madness, so to speak, of the person dimension, the dimension of our mind. I'd highly recommend to you the book The Road Back to You, or the Typology podcast, both by Ian Morgan Cron, who says, if you want to experience enduring transformation, you have to discover your false story, decouple yourself from it, and begin to live the truth of your new story. Now let's take another look at a second dimension that we need to focus on. That's the dimension of healthy bodies. That's that physical dimension. How many of you have just really lived by the motto, eat, drink, be merry, because tomorrow it's all just going to end anyway? Even in the midst of helping a lot of people, we can truly just kind of be motivated and be driven by that thought of eat, drink, and be merry. And be merry, and we just believe in the method and the madness of that. We just keep moving forward. We just keep moving. We just keep going. We just keep pushing. And yet it means oftentimes that we're neglecting our physical priorities. I realized in the last year that all the years of being 6'4", all the years of putting a lot of compression on my spine from sitting long hours in the car, from sitting at my desk way too long without getting up and stretching, from the years of sports that I really had compressed some lower back discs to the point where they were not happy with me. And so thankfully, by going to the chiropractor, by getting stretched out, by remembering to prioritize the need to take care of myself physically, I can really live a much healthier life right now, and I can really still do all the things that I love to do and be super active. I would highly recommend that you take a look at the book Living Forward by Michael Hyatt. In there, he describes a life plan, which is a really great tool of helping us realize that we need to prioritize each of these dimensions, the mind, the body, and the dimension we'll talk about next, our spiritual dimension, and even break those up into different categories and sub-dimensions, so to speak, like family relationships, friendship relationships, work focus, personal spiritual development. Each of those is like a bank account. Each of those is a priority that needs to be managed. We need to make investments into those priorities, into those accounts, because oftentimes all we do is withdraw from those accounts. All we do is withdraw from our physical account when we think that we're going to go hike a 14,000-foot mountain, we're going to go swim in the ocean for an hour, we're going to take a 100-mile bike ride without being physically ready for those. Those are asking of our physical account more than is in there. We're going to bounce that check, and we're going to pay for it down the road. Same as the relationship accounts with our family or friends. If we're not investing wisely, if we're not making intentional deposits into those sub-dimensions of our physical world, the relationships, the physical ways that we interact with other people, then you'll see it in your body, you'll see it in your relationships, you'll see it in your mind, you'll see it in your spirit. It'll impact you everywhere. So I'd highly recommend Hyatt's book, Living Forward. And in Living Forward, Hyatt says many people get into their 40s, 50s, and 60s, look around, and realize that they have been pulled out to sea. Perhaps their health is failing. Their marriage is broken. Life seems meaningless and unfulfilling. They have become victims of the drift. If you drift out to sea without having your anchor firmly planted, without being tied into the dock, you're going to be tossed overboard. You're going to become shark bait. And I don't want to see that. I want to see you healthy and well and physically active to be able to go out there and advance hope in your home, in your community, and beyond. Let's take a look at the third dimension of how we need to thrive, how we can thrive. We can do this. We can thrive. We don't have to give in to the busyness and the burdens and the burnout. I love this image of just a simple candle. For centuries, for millennia, for thousands and thousands of years, the light of a flame has represented something spiritual, something illuminating about our world, about ourselves, about a higher power. As a person who identifies as a Christian for myself, I know that for me there are times when my practice of spirituality, when my daily rhythms of spiritual nurture for my own heart, mind, body, soul, strength, spirit, when it's in sync and it's in rhythm, I feel refreshed, I feel renewed. I can notice my thoughts are clearer. I can notice that my heart feels more joy deep down inside. But yet there's times when the candle is really just snuffed out and the spiritual side of me is just kind of dead. It's not that I've stopped believing in God, not that God has left me or abandoned me. It's just, I've moved. I've moved away from the candle, or I've put blown it out with a whole bunch of blustering wind that's coming out of my mouth. And because I've known the way, I know the path, I know the solving of the problem that's in front of me, and it's just all a bunch of wind, and that tends to blow out this illuminating light that we all need in our life. So I'd highly recommend again that you get in tune with the dimension of spirituality, which at the most basic common denominator is just getting connected to something greater than ourselves. A mission, a movement, a philosophy, a divine relationship, whatever that might be. That's just a great starting point. We've got to get in tune with something greater than ourselves. And I love this quote from a pastor, psychologist, author, John Ortberg, as he looks at the dimension of spirituality. He points out that we die in isolation. We thrive when we are connected. Let me read that one more time. We die in isolation. We thrive when we are connected. Are you plugged into something greater than yourself? Not a lot of tasks, not a lot of duties and obligations, but something or someone or some movement of epic proportions that you can get a hold of in your life and you can bring into your life that connects you to that something that's greater than you. And that'll also connect you to other people who you can be connected with and energized with and interlocking arms with when the going gets tough, and you can have someone that you can hold on to as you're weathering the storms of life. Without that connection, we're in isolation. Isolation kills, it dies, it withers, when a plant does not get water and sunshine, and even someone that'll talk to it every once in a while, it withers, it dies, it's isolated, it's withdrawn away from anything that is life-giving. I don't want to see you withdrawing from the life-giving resources that are available to you. I don't want to see your spirit withering under the weight of the busyness and the burdens and the boredom and the burnout that you might be facing. I want to see you thrive, and I want to see you connected to one another as well as connected spiritually. I'd highly encourage Ortberg's book, Eternity is Now in Session. So let's take a look at this one more time. You can do this as an agent of hope. Every agent of hope can thrive by focusing on these three dimensions. Thriving in your mind, thriving in your body, thriving in your spirit. That is the 3D health and wholeness pathway that I want you to take. I need you to take. I need us all to take this together, because there are so many needs out there. There are so many hurting, suffering, lost, lonely, troubled individuals and families and communities and schools and regions of this world that need hope. They need a better tomorrow. And we can help bring that to them when we concentrate on thriving in our mind, in our body, and our spirit. And that's the 3D health and wholeness pathway that I want to encourage you to get on board with. You can do this. Take the first step. Do something today that'll help you engage your mind. Do something today that'll engage your body, engage the way you physically show up in this world, whether that's taking the stairs, whether that's just getting in nature for a few minutes to take a few deep breaths, because ultimately that'll also invite you to thrive spiritually. When you take some deep breaths, when you clear your mind, when you focus on that connection to something greater than yourself, you will begin to thrive. It takes all of us, gang. It takes all of us putting our hands together, putting our hearts together in order to thrive together in our mission to advance hope. I can't wait to join you again next time as we continue in our focus of advancing hope at home, in our community, and beyond. Today you've been watching the webinar, Thriving Together, Healthy and Whole Mind, Body, and Spirit. Thanks again for joining me.